All right, so we'll take a couple more questions. I got just a few more minutes and we'll wrap this up. We're talking about Facebook ads and how to utilize Facebook to generate leads for your insurance business and particularly for Medicare. So I got a couple more questions here. The Sherry asked, lookalike audience. Okay, so Sherry's asking about a lookalike audience. And basically, when you think about a lookalike audience, Facebook has all of this data, all of this information. It's like this huge. You might even be a little freaked out if you knew everything they know about you. But they have all of this data and this information. And what you're able to do is you're able to take an audience of people. So if you have, let's say you've generated some leads, you typically need to have, a decent amount of leads generated before you create this. But if you took a snapshot, let's say at 250 leads, and you looked at those leads, and let's say you're doing it for final expense, okay? If you look at those leads, they're going to have a lot of similarities. I mean, think about it for a minute, Sherry. What would be something that they would have in common? I mean, if you think about age, they're going to be similar in an age range, okay, as far as final expense goes. Or if it was Medicare, most of them are going to be over 65. So there's one thing. But then it gets down to even more. So it starts to look at maybe there's a trend there where most of them have a fit into a certain criteria of income. Now, Facebook no longer, you can't go in and target income anymore. But maybe Facebook in their algorithm sees that they have a certain amount of income, they have a certain amount of interest that let's say just by chance that there's a lot of them that have an interest in gardening. Okay, there's a lot of them that has interest that they like certain pages. And what Facebook will do is it'll take all of these data points, all of this data, and it will create an audience that best looks like those folks. And so that's why, particularly when you have an audience going in that you've actually generated leads or they've expressed some sort of interest. Sometimes it's from a budget standpoint, it's hard to do for leads maybe unless you have a larger budget. So if you have a smaller budget, maybe it's just a group of folks that have watched a certain amount of your video that you shot, something like that. You can create a lookalike audience of everyone that's watched a certain bit, 25% of your video, or and then those folks are going to be, if they've watched 25% of your video, even if they didn't convert into a lead, that's narrowing that funnel down to someone who's probably interested. Maybe you need to have some retargeting and some stuff like that going on, but that's going to be a pretty good indicator that group of people has interest in what you're talking about. And so then you can create a lookalike audience, and it's going to take all those key characteristics and it's going to create an audience that looks like those folks. Okay. What else we got here? Robert, cost per lead. So Robert is asking cost per lead. You using Facebook. There's a lot. It's hard to answer that question, Robert. So what are we talking about? Are we talking about final expense? Are we talking about Medicare? Also, too, when you're dealing with cost per lead, the more information that you ask for them to complete, the higher the cost of lead is. Okay, but on the flip side of that, the more information you're asking them to complete, the higher the intent of that lead is. So we start dealing with cost per lead and is one sort of metric, but then what is the intent? If I went on right now to Facebook and I offered like a special gift for everyone who completed a lead form, I could generate leads for a very, very small price point. Matter of fact, I could generate a ton of leads for very little. But what is the intent of those folks? Are they really interested in fill in the blank, final expense, Medicare, whatever? Are they really interested in that? Or are they just completing that because they want to be, get a prize out of it? I hope that kind of makes sense. On the other hand, if I have a lead, if I have a Facebook ad, and in that ad, basically, I'm going to be asking them a ton of information. Tell me how, name, age, phone number, address, on and on. I'm going to ask a lot of information. Or if it's a landing page, you can ask a huge number of questions on a landing page. If they're going to go and complete that information, like if they're going to leave Facebook, go to a landing page. So there's different types of ads. Now, as I mentioned earlier on the live here, they're Facebook ads, like where they actually stay in Facebook. There's also, you can run an ad where they go to a landing page. And so if they're going to, let's say, leave Facebook, go to a landing page or a squeeze page, we sometimes call them, and get on that page, and they're going to fill out their name, their phone number, their email address. They're going to fill out their resident address. Okay, they're going to answer some questions that you have, some qualifying questions. If they're going to do all of that, that's a pretty high intent lead, but that lead is going to cost a lot more to generate than it would be for the one that stays on Facebook, and they're going to get the opportunity to get a free prize just for responding. So I hope that makes sense. I know I didn't really answer your question, but when it comes down to cost, I've had different things. I've had situations before where I've had more of an educational type of ad where for people turning 65, and I was generating them for $4 or $5. And then I've had other situations where it might cost for certain, when you really get into the intent level, it might cost $25 to generate an ad. And some people will go, wow, I never would pay $25. Well, what if it was your close rate was so much higher, you'd have to weed through less of the tire kickers. For some people, they would rather go that route. If obviously you're a newer agent, or if you're building an agency and you're going to be providing leads, you want to have a lot of quantity, and let the agent, or you the agent, go through and kind of work through them. But let's say if you're really, really busy and you have a lot going on, maybe you want to really just try to narrow down really interested, high intent leads, you're going to pay a premium for that. Let's see. Okay, so Ramel, he's asking about retargeting. We talked a little bit about that earlier, but retargeting basically, I'll give you an example to make it kind of easy to understand. So let's say you have your website and you are getting traffic to your website. It could be a variety of ways. Okay, it could be that you're pushing traffic from Facebook to your website. It could be YouTube. It could be from Google ad display ads. It could be a different way. It could be from a billboard. It could be a lot of different things, but you're having traffic go to your website. Okay, within that website, and this could kind of get in the weeds here, but if you set up what's called a pixel in your website, a Facebook pixel, this pixel can track people when they go to the website. Okay, and so with that pixel, when someone goes to the website, it tracks them. Okay, and then sometimes it's like when you go to a website, it's called a cookie, but basically Facebook has a pixel and they can track it. So then you can end up creating an audience of people. You can create an audience of people who have gone to your website, for example, and then you can create that, and then you can retarget those people. So earlier the question was about custom audiences. This is and custom audiences takes a snapshot and then it makes it bigger. This is like actual people who went to your website, for example. Okay, or this is actual people who watched 25% of your video. Let's say, like earlier I said, watch 25%. You create an audience that looks like those people, that has the same characteristics. Well, if you retarget, like you can retarget the actual person who sat there and watched 25% of your video, or who actually went to your website. And what makes this powerful is if you think about their intent level, you can start to retarget, and then that person then sees another ad that maybe is further along in the sort of psychology of getting them from A to Z. So maybe your first thing that you have out there is more educational. They watch it. All right, so then now they've watched a lot of your content there. So now you retarget them, and the next thing is maybe offering a free course, a free guide, whatever the case may be. We call it a lead magnet. And so then from there, you have people that will will opt in. But then maybe you have people that watch that video but they don't. Well, then maybe you do another retarget where you're retargeting those people who did not opt into whatever it is you're doing. And you can exclude people as well. So the ones that opted in, you can exclude them so they don't see that third ad, and then you can retarget the ones who did not opt in. So that's kind of I mean, we could really get deep in here about how retargeting and how effective it is, but I can tell you this, it's very effective. It's really effective to do if you're retargeting across different platforms. So if you have Facebook, you know, and you're driving, you can drive traffic pretty inexpensive from Facebook to, say, your landing page. Well, then you can then retarget, or it's actually, I always get them mixed up, remarket to those same people actually from on YouTube and Google. So you got Google ads, so you could actually take those people and then, or vice versa. Maybe you have a Google ad or YouTube is driving people, which generally that might probably a little expensive, more expensive. They go to your website, and then now you have a pixel on your website to where Facebook, you can then retarget those people. And then just organically, you have organic people that go to your website. So or they go, let's say that, like I said earlier, you have a billboard or you have some sort of media. Those people go, well, then now all of a sudden, if they're on Facebook and you have the pixel, you can then sort of follow those people. Now when they get on Facebook, they start seeing your ad more often. And I got to wrap up here, but the thing to think about is this: if somebody goes to your website and they spend some time on your website, chances are they're interested in whatever it is that you have to offer. Maybe that person's 64 years old and they're going to be starting Medicare soon, and ultimately they're going to start Medicare, but they're just not quite ready yet to take action. They're just kind of researching now. Well, now if you retarget those folks, you can kind of stay in front of them, and then when they're ready to make their decision, you're top of mind. All right, so I hope that helps, guys. I got to run, but if you have any questions, you can comment. I'm going to put this up on probably YouTube or somewhere. You can comment. If you're watching this on YouTube down the road, 6 months from now, a year from now, feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. And then also, too, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'd love to have a conversation, answer any questions, and help any way I can. Again, great talking to everybody, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.